Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the B. Andrews Radio Show, coming to you from Central Wisconsin. And what a tremendous opportunity it is to be here on the podcast and to talk to you and to have a little bit of fun, talk about the things that we're talking about, grabbing you a cup of coffee, and to hear the different things that might just accidentally roll out of our mouths today. On this side of the microphone, I'm Eric, and before I will even allow him to talk, let me tell you about my co-host over on the other side, John. I've been fighting a terrible cold, so before you can even get to hear his voice, before I will allow him to speak and be recorded, I want to warn our listening audience that this is an absolute degradation. This is horrifying to the ears. It breaks my heart to have you hear him talk, and so be prepared for what you are about ready to hear. All right, with all of that being said, I want to welcome my co-host here today. He is quite the guy. He is a rock star of producers. He is the just rock solid in getting things done. I have no more else to say. John, how are you?
He is very sick.
Seriously, man, I've asked him time and time again, to our listening audience. I'm telling you, I've asked him 4 or 5 times starting on Sunday. I mean, he had no voice on Sunday, but I asked him, John, you going to be able to do the show? John, you going to be able to do the show? And, I'm trying to give him an out. John, do you want me to do the show by myself? I mean, if I have to, we can do it. It just won't, it'll only be half as fun because you're not there. But, John, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? And every time I asked him, he said,
well, yes, gonna do it. Yeah, totally.
Oh, man, it sounds, I feel for you.
This is what I'm trying to conjure the energy from somewhere.
From somewhere. You poor guy. I mean, he's been doing all kinds of stuff. So if you listen to the radio show, would you do me a favor and send John some get well greetings? He needs to know that there's people out there thinking of him. And I mean, he's such a workhorse, day in, day out. He's doing really don't no hairball. You cannot hack up a hairball on this show. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Sorry, I've got a cough, and all I can think of is like, would you please alms for poor little baby Timmy? I'm in your back.
There he goes. All right, so I'll try to cover up his hacking with talk and words, and we'll do our best. But I really am. I say do the show by myself, but I'm going to be honest with everybody out there. I can't do this without him. He really is the second half, probably the better half. I'm just verbalization, but he's brains. He's a lot on the research. When we get down and we start talking about what it is we're going to talking about, he's going to come up with a lot of the ideas. Plus, he's the producer of the show. To be honest with you, I just sit over here, run my mouth, and drink coffee. That pretty much is it. John does a lot of the rest of it, and you guys really need to know that he is the guy on the other side that you don't see that gets a lot of this done.
I mean, they don't see you either.
And boy, am I glad. So anyway, so this is the B. Andrews Radio Show. Again, I'm Eric. That's John over on the other side. It is so great to be here, Central Wisconsin. A little bit, we mentioned a little bit about the weather before we come on. Rain, and I think they're even talking about snow showers on Thursday.
It won't stick. It won't stay.
I've hit that wall. I'm tired of snow. I'm tired of cold. I'm tired of 30-degree weather, 35 to 38 degrees, and it just can't seem to get any warmer. It just doesn't do anything, and that just drives me nuts.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be so bad. It's been rainy and gray most every day for the past 2 weeks maybe.
Well, no, we had 2 days of beautiful weather.
I said most every day.
I know. So you take a 10-day run, and 8 out of the 10 days it has been gray. It hasn't rained all those 8 days, but it's just been gray. And then 2 days, and it went from 38 degrees to 58 degrees one day. Sunshine, 58 degrees. Then it went back. And it's like, come on, man, stay around, please. And it's a spring tease is what it is. Spring tease. I got a feeling we're going to have one of those years where we go directly out of spring or not spring. I'm sorry. We're going to go directly. Don't. I know what you were going to say.
I think we were going to have one of those years where we go directly out of spring and into summer too.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say this is going to be one of those years where we go directly out of winter into summer. I mean, we're just kind of going to bridge right over spring, and boom, here it is. Hey, last week we did the first episode of a serial. We called it The Adventures of Fat Man and Bobbin. And we didn't hear from anybody on whether or not they liked it. I was kind of looking for a little bit of feedback to see if anybody got some yucks out of it and so forth. So I just want to put in a bit of a plug. Hey, check us out on our Facebook. Check us out on our Twitter. And, tell us some of the stuff that you like that we're doing. And feel free to go, well, you guys did this and it didn't work. Well, that's fine. Tell us. We're kind of feeling our way through on the radio show. There might be some things that you might or might not suggest. Well, if you don't suggest it, I guess we wouldn't know. But there might be some things that you would suggest that we may or may not kind of pay attention to. And the reason is because there is a bit of a direction in our minds that we're wanting to take the show, and some things that we are wanting to do. And there's some things that's like, well, it's a nice suggestion, but no, that's not something we want to do. For instance, we want to talk about some cultural issues. We want to talk about issues and things that affect us in our everyday lives. But I definitely want to approach everything from a fun point of view. This is definitely an anti-politics venue. You will not hear us talk about presidential politics. You'll not hear us talk about Washington, D.C. We'll talk about things that affect our culture and that affect us and how we can affect our culture. But when it comes to politics, this is a no politic zone. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this radio show. And we want to have a little bit of fun and put some smile on your faces. And so if it feels like a time or two we're being a little bit frivolous, just want to let you know that's actually kind of the intent. We're not going to be heavy. We're not going to bring down theology, Christian radio. We're Christians doing a radio show. It's a part of who we are. It's our character, but not going to pull out the Bible and preach at you. Not what we're going to do. We're just going to talk about life from a perspective and a Christ-centered perspective, because that is our aim, to be Christ-centered people. So I can't talk to you about anything without bringing that into it. So we want to have a little bit of fun about the different things we want to talk about. And by the way, John, somebody mentioned to me, asked me the question about, are we ever going to consider going live? That came up in a conversation on Facebook. Somebody was IMing me, and we were talking and said, are you guys going to be live on Tuesday? What time does it start? And it's like, no, not going to do that. I do want to let everybody know that is a place where we would like to go. Eventually, we would like to be at the place where we're coming on live and people are listening to us, and we're streaming live and taking questions live or answering people on Facebook or Twitter live, and having that direct, what's that called when you do it instantaneously back and forth, that real feel, or I forget what it's called, but real time.
Direct connection.
No, in real time. Have our radio show working in real time. So that would be a lot of fun. And that is a direction that we do want to go. I am sitting here today with my cup of coffee. I don't know if you've gotten yours yet. So we want to kind of launch just a little bit and tell you what we're going to talk about today so that you can start contemplating it. And we want to tread lightly. Last week, we... Quit that over there. Last week, we talked about what it meant to be a real man / gentleman. Because I believe that's a real man. Has manners, knows how to handle himself, but at the same time could be a warrior if he needs to be. But a real man, okay? And we talked about that last week. Okay. And I had given a heads up. This week, we want to talk about what it means to be a real lady. I'll let that just kind of hang right there just a little bit. Okay, and in the process of doing that, I just want to start with a disclaimer. I are not a lady.
I'm not a lady either.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. And that disclaimer, I'm saying that we want to do this from a very specific perspective. We're not coming at you and saying, this is how we believe ladies ought to think. This is what we believe that because of being perfect, how we believe that ladies ought to act. Because we are ladies. No, that would just be stupid. No. Not a perspective where we're coming from. Where we're coming from is we're guys. And this is what...
We're guys.
Like men.
Like men.
That's right, okay? And as guys, this is how we perceive ladies to be.
So this is more like the scientific method, what is observable.
From a guy's point of view. So, and that's all that we got. That's the only point of view that we can speak from, being that we're not ladies. We can't tell you how it is from a lady's perspective to be a lady. So, we're not going to be stupid about this, but at the same...
That's debatable.
It really is. Somebody could say, just taking this subject on was
exactly
really stupid.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But, okay, guys. I could just see there's a couple of ladies sitting beside listening to it, wrapping their fingers on the table going, go ahead.
Go ahead. Make
my day. I could totally see this. And so, so it's not from that particular perspective because we can't. But I will tell you this, being a guy, there's things that I have observed and I believe in my mind, I have seen what a lady is. And because of that, I know what I'm looking for when I see something that's a lady. And when I see behavior...
I think you mean someone that's a lady.
Yes.
Something that's a lady.
No, I'm going to say this now. It says in Proverbs that when a man has found a wife, he has found a good thing. That is a direct quote. But a woman is not an object. So we start right there. So actually, you are correct.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 yes. John wins the prize. What did he win?
A new car.
Oh, great. You needed one anyway, didn't you?
I don't have that announcer's voice. Where's Danny when you need him?
Where is he? Okay. And so anyway, but I know when I see behavior that is not becoming to a lady. I know it when I see it. And that kind of stuff, oh my goodness, really, really screams in society and in culture. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to take a look at, kind of stuff that we want to talk about. So here we go. We're going to get into the subject. So we're heading into our first break. We're also going to hear later on in the show another episode of Fat Man and Bobbin. This is the stuff that we're going to talk about today, what you're going to hear on the B. Andrews Radio Show. Fill up your cups, get a second cup of coffee or your first, and we're going to take this break, go away, do that, and come right on back, and let's get into it. Well, there's a guy I know so let's call him Joe, cause he's a real good friend. He wants to start a fight when things aren't right in this world that we're living in. So it says to him, Joe, I know that you know that fighting never pays. So instead of a fight when things aren't right, why don't you start with a chord of praise? Na, 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 na. Sing the chord of praise. Na, 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 na. Sing the chord of praise. There is a simple truth that folks don't understand. Everything that happens in our lives comes from God's own hand. Everybody has a choice that they can make every day. You can choose to ignore what comes from God or sing the chord of praise. Now it occurred to me how things might be when this world comes to an end. It won't be long till we're all gone and standing up in heaven, and then we'll have no fear when we get there, cause with the angels we will raise to my Lord a song that starts with this chord, a song that starts with the chord of praise. Hey, if you want to be a part of the show, connect with us on Twitter at @BAndrewsBand, all lowercase, BANDREWSBAND, or IM us at Facebook by going to B. Andrews. That's first name B, B-E, last name Andrews, ANDREWS. Having fun. How about you? Got my cup full. I'm right here. Talking about what it means to be a lady in our current culture. When I last in our last segment, I was talking about, I know when I see something that doesn't look like a lady. When people are acting out in the culture, that's just not what it means to be a lady. And the same thing goes for being a gentleman. You know, when a guy is just not behaving, rude behavior, this kind of thing. I mean, it's just not being a gentleman at all. I'm a basketball official, and last Saturday we're doing 8th grade basketball tournament, and it is for the entire state of Wisconsin. They gather at UWSP, University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point. They use the college gym, a couple of the college gyms. They use 2 of the high school gyms off campus, and I'm officiating at one of the high school gyms off campus, and we're just having some really good games, seeing a lot of 8th grade talent from all across the state. Pretty awesome. A team comes in, and definitely not from our region. The team is from down south. And it's probably the first time that a lot of people in the central Wisconsin region had even seen this team or the school district that they're from southern Wisconsin. And they get into the middle of the game, and it's not the kids, but there was one of the players' moms that started cursing at one of the other ladies in the stands. And then she started getting belligerent, and she started cursing, and I do believe she even dropped the F-bomb on one of the officials. Oh, yeah, on one of the officials. And when she said it, the official never heard it, okay? But when she said it, one of the moms in the crowd, and I don't know if she was for the other team or whatever, because you got to understand there's like 30 basketball teams that are on that are there. You got the teams that are waiting to play. You got the teams that are on the court. And so so I don't know who the parent was, but she turns around to the mom and she says, "Hey, there's kids here. Don't use that kind of language." And that was all she wrote. The other woman stands up, shoves on her, hauls back, get ready to punch her in the face. And the stands cleared. This isn't the players. It's not high school. We're talking about 30 to 40-year-old parents. And it wasn't a dad. It was a mom that started this fight in the stands. A 30-year-old woman. Notice what word I did not call her.
Lady.
Correct. I did not call her a lady because my belief system, lady don't use that kind of language.
You're not a lady. You're nothing but a sister.
Oh, she wasn't even a sister at that point. I mean, I don't think a lady talks like that. Okay. I don't think a gentleman drops that kind of language around people. There's better ways to behave. Bite your tongue if you can't say something better than that. But that's not being a lady.
Was it even high school kids?
No, 8th grade.
So it was you have middle school kids and they're like dropping all this language and stuff?
Yeah. So this lady in the stands is dropping this language. And when somebody calls her on it, she's ready to fight her. And it was another woman that said, "Hey, there's kids out here and around here." Oh yeah. And then she wanted to fight about it. And it was just like, and the thing of it is on the court that they were on, it was temporary bleachers. And when the bleachers ended out or filed out, it sounded like thunder rumbling. It was only 4 or 5 seats high because of being temporary aluminum bleachers at the end of the basketball court. But all of a sudden you just hear this rumbling coming up off of these bleachers and people are just flying off of them. It was embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing. And it was caused by a woman with a potty mouth. And again,
and fists.
And again, notice I'm not saying a lady. And I will tell you one of the major reasons that I hold the beliefs about being a lady and what a lady is. It's because of the way my wife acts. And I say that because she has taught me what it means to be a lady. She has shown me this is how a lady handles herself. And not only has she taught me this is how a lady handles herself, she has taught our daughters the same thing. And because she has handled herself like a lady, she is the example in my household to my guys, my boys growing up, to what a lady is. And that's super important because as they look out in culture and they start looking for potential wives or people that they're going to date or whatever, guess what? They have to match up to the height of what being a lady is to the standard that my wife sets. And that is the first measuring point for me and in my learning point. And I thank my wife for that over and over and over. But you know what? If you don't have an example in your life, that still is no excuse for not learning. You can go out there. There are things, if you really seek it, you can find it to say what a lady is. You can do a research on how to be a gentleman. If I'm not mistaken, didn't you run into a website?
Yeah. A friend shared it with me first. It's called The Art of Manliness. Is the name of the website. It's a pretty cool website. All about different ways about how to be a man, and one of the specific things it has on is etiquette. Is one of the things it had an article on. Old school etiquette.
Okay. And so as a man handles himself to be a gentleman, it allows him to treat a female like a lady so that she can respond in kind.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things about the article, is it was taken from an English etiquette book written in 1954, and the website went ahead and abridged it and kind of updated it for made it, well, for one, only made it the length for an article.
Okay, so before you go on, give that give that website again real quick.
theartofmanliness.com.
Okay. And here's one of the things that, before you launch into that, tell us a little bit about this. I want John to do it because this is part of his research. I told you, see, he's the brains behind all this. But I will say this, we have a current problem in our culture where we're trying to rewrite history in order to make our present seem normal. Is that would that be a good way of putting it?
I wouldn't call it normal.
Well, but I mean, to make it seem normal. It's not normal.
Like maybe more civilized.
Okay,
more progressed.
Whichever way that you want to look at it. Maybe I'm not coming up with the right words, but the idea is we need to make our past look so evil, and that we have to get away from that in order that it's okay to be where we are today.
Well, I'll give you that.
So instead of looking at our past and going, gosh, how did we get where we are today? It's like, oh, we're so much better than we were back there, and we change the past. And I bring that up because what are some of the things that are talked about in this particular website you found?
That's one of the interesting things. If you look through all the most of the old school things of etiquette, especially as it pertains to being a gentleman and how a gentleman were to treat a lady and the other people around him, almost every one of them has to do with esteeming other people higher than yourself, especially women. It goes over the top to make sure that women are esteemed more highly than men. You know? So, like, for instance, old school rules for any of you guys that may not know, when a woman enters into the room, all the men are supposed to stand and remain standing until the woman is seated.
In honor.
In honor of the woman.
Of the woman, because she is a lady.
It would also be incredibly ungentlemanly for you to be seated while the woman has to stand. Period. Back in the day, if you were to walk with a woman, if you were going to walk with her and be talking with her, if you were going to the same place, if she was carrying anything, you were expected to carry it for her so that she wouldn't have to. That's another thing. You were expected to go before her to open up doors. You were expected to go before her in order to help her down from carriages. You were supposed to go before her in crowds to make sure that she had a clear path to walk through.
If a lady came into a room and all the seats were filled, what is the expectation to happen? The gentlemen are supposed to get up
and stand and
allow the lady
Yep.
to be seated. And all of this is not done in order to put down the woman or be in control. In fact, it is to raise her up to show that she is esteemed, that she is honored because she is a female.
One of the other ones that's not quite as applicable today as back in the day is that men were expected, if you were to walk with a woman down a sidewalk, a man was expected to walk on the street side in order to protect the woman that he was walking with. And the reason for that is back in the day of carriages and stuff, if a horse got loose or started to buck or something, the man was to be on the street side in order that he could shield and protect the woman from getting hit by a horse.
Another part is if they're, and this a bit old school and not very applicable today, is if a woman goes walking across the street and there's a puddle. And we've seen this acted out in cartoons and they make fun of it, but actually he takes off his outer cloak and he lays it over top of the puddle so that she can walk through so that she doesn't get her shoes and her stockings back then, messed up and all nasty. All of this because we're honoring her. It's not about containing her, and modern day takes a look at history and goes, oh, it's so terrible back then. Women were suppressed. They weren't allowed to do this, that, and the other. And to me, I look at some of these other things that have been lost and we say, where in the world has these manners gone so that we can show our ladies of today that we honor you and we put ourselves second. We honor you with our lives. We honor you with everything that we have. Well, this is a bit of our topic, and just ask yourself, how much would it change our culture if guys started treating women like ladies? Well, I just found out my cup's empty, John, so I need to go get a refill, and this would be a great place to take a break. I think Fat Man Robin is coming up, so enjoy it, and we'll be back.
Previously on the adventures of Fat Man and Bobbin, our pre-diabetic duo raced to the grand ballroom of the Gottham Waldorf Hotel. Astoria, only to find the quintessential queen of Quindaria had been iced in the face. Immediately, our heroic heroes modulate into motion in an attempt to solve the crime. Batman and Bobbin has seized the Queen's birthday cake to take to their man cave for more taste testing.
Counting calories, Fat Man. We've eaten all the evidence and didn't get a clue.
Maybe to the undiscerning tongue, Bobbin, but with my highly trained taste buds, I detected a touch of cardamom in this recipe. I know of only one bakery in all of Gotham that uses cardamom.
Really, Fat Man? Which one?
The Gotham Donut Company.
Dunkin' Donuts, Fat Man. They went out of business years ago.
Yes, Bobbin. That would make the abandoned Gotham Donut Factory the perfect hideout for Cake Face. To the Trans-Fatmobile.
Moving at the speed of Peristalsis, Batman and Bobbin arrive just in time to find their villainous villain engaged in villainy.
Stop, villain!
It's vanilla.
Is that 3 tablespoons or 4?
Well, come here and I'll show you.
No, Fat Man, it's a trap.
Stopping at the spot marked by a giant X on the floor, a mechanical arm hurls 2 giant piles of extra thick, extra buttered croissant dough, heavy on the butter, at our lipid lads, totally concealing them in gooey goodness.
Fat Man, don't you know you can't have your cake and eat it too?
Will our hefty heroes escape in time, or will they become donut filling? Join us next time when we hear Bobbin say,
Great gaffes, Fat Man. This stuff really does have extra butter in it.
You're listening to the B. Andrews Radio Show.
Okay, today's fake sponsor is North Star GPS. North Star GPS leading you home because we know where you live.
All right. Man, this is a great cup of coffee. Actually, it's my 3rd cup. If you've never had it, gang, you've got to experience a French press. I love French press. You go, and with fresh ground beans, too. That is kind of the kicker to using a French press. If you've never seen them, look them up. They have some that are different costs and different ways, but I'm telling you what, it is. If you are a coffee connoisseur, get you a little coffee grinder, electric coffee grinder, get you some good fresh whole beans and a French press, and just enjoy. It's good stuff. We left off in the other segment. I'm sorry. I have to mention. I was
distracted by awesome beans.
I was. Wow, that means so many different things on so many different levels.
I could have said you were distracted by magic beans.
Yeah, you could have, but he chokes himself up. I know. Sorry about that, man. We left our last segment and we were talking about guys, and of course we're coming at this from a guy's point of view. guys being gentlemen, honoring ladies helps them to become ladies, but I also want to flip that really quick. In our modern culture, there has come to be a bit of a problem with ladies being so independent and not having a great example of what it means to be a lady, and the culture not pushing the ideal of being a lady, but rather being an individual and being competitive with guys, and there's no difference between girls and guys, and this is all the things that our modern culture is throwing at it, and with that happening, that means that girls are also not acting like ladies and making guys be gentlemen. Yeah. And so that flips it. I mean, guys need to act like gentlemen and be gentlemen so that ladies can be ladies, but ladies also need to be ladies in order that guys will act like gentlemen.
And it really takes the two. That's one of the things that article from the artofmanliness.com, that's one of the things it had to keep mentioning over and over was like, okay, here's the classic etiquette rule to follow, but because, ladies probably won't adhere to these rules and expect these things from you, the gentleman. Like they had to rewrite so many of them to be like, the main thing is just to not embarrass them because, they probably won't let you scoot in their chair. They probably won't wait for you to open a door. They probably won't wait on you to do any of those things. And in one way, it's kind of sad because it's, where do gentleman manners go? Someone can ask that. I've never seen anyone be a gentleman. And it's like, well, did you ever give them time? Did you ever expect them to be a gentleman?
And there are times, this to be a fact, there are times that your mom has said to your sisters, wait, let them open the door for you.
Yeah. In which case, little sister goes, but I can open the door
myself. Yeah. And culturally, but that's where we are. There are times, my wife, and as much as she is a lady, and my wife is a princess. She is just a princess. And I was getting ready, a plethora of things just went through my brain that probably should not come out my mouth because she will thank me for that. But there are times because of the culture and whatever that we live in that she just goes on over to her side of the car and gets ready to get in. And every now and then it's like, you know what? I need to do this. And I try to run over to the other side of the car and beat her to the door so that I can open it for her. Am I perfect? Do I get it done every time? The answer is no. But it strikes me sometimes that, you know what, I need to do this. And you say, okay, you've gone through this whole thing and you've talked about that. Where's the God-centeredness and all of this? Well, let me tell you, in Ephesians chapter 6, it talks about a husband and wife's role, and it uses it as an illustration so that we can capture a picture of the relationship between Jesus Christ and the church. And maybe, just maybe, it's one of the reasons why we don't get a very good picture of Jesus Christ and the church, because men and women aren't treating themselves the way that they should, because we're trying to see each other as being equal and actually competitive with each other, and trying to say so much that men and women are the same, and they're not. They're totally different. It can't even be compared to the two. One is not better than the other. They're different. They're just not even the same thing. And to try to compare them is comparing apples to oranges. They're different. A male's a male. A female is a female. They're not the same thing. I can prove it. There's difference in chromosomes. It's not the same.
Well, if you even look in the verse in the Bible, it's interesting to note that, Paul specifically says, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Well, if he has to say submit, then that means the wife can meet her husband head on competitively. So it has to be a matter of the heart to submit in the first place.
Well, a lot of people look at the word submit, S-U-B, sub, to come under. But it doesn't mean to come under and be under him. It means to come down parallel to him. And that's why you say head to head. The same thing about husbands, their jobs, it's totally different than the wife's job. The wife's job is to submit. The husband's job is to love the wife like Jesus Christ loved the church. And I'm going to let that hang right there, and we're going to grab a cup of coffee because I really want you to contemplate heavily what I'm going to say when we get back. You're listening to the B. Andrews Radio Show.
Yeah, man. I got you be feeling that. It's got a great groove going on. Yeah. Got me feeling good. Got me feeling really good. Here we go. I'm just sitting here and enjoying the shade. How you been feeling? I've been feeling good.
Sitting here, thinking about all of the good things and the things that are fresh and new. Oh yeah. I just want to take some time and say thank you, 'cause I know that all of the good things come from you. So here we go. Thank you,
Thank you.
my Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good things in my life.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. Thank you,
Thank you.
my Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good things in my life.
This is the wrap-up segment of the show. I've about finished this pot of French press here that was made today. But as we wrap up, I told you I just want to throw something at you, and I would like for you to really contemplate this, and that is the idea that since men and women are different, that we need to be something that God has caused us and called us to be, and in our differences to fulfill the roles that he has given to us. God has given to man the role of loving the wife like he loved the church. Well, Jesus Christ laid down his life for the church. He died for it in order to protect it, in order to bring it salvation, in order to bring the church into relationship with him, his body. He loved her so much. And wives' role is to submit and come under and let their husbands be a gentleman to them, and let their husbands honor them, and allow their husbands to rescue them and protect them, and to do all those things. And their role in submitting is to take that and to show it as an example to the children and to the rest of the world, so that they can see their husband and how great that their husband is and that relationship is. And here's the thing I'm going to throw at you, and that is, if men and women would be the gentlemen and ladies in society, how much more would our culture see Jesus Christ in it? Because in each one of those cases is selflessness and sacrifice to the other person because you're willing to. Can you imagine what kind of change would be in our world if people would just practice the etiquette of being ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our show today. Hey, be a lady, be a gentleman out there. We'll be back again next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. That's when our podcast will launch, so we want you to catch what's going on. You've been listening to The B. Andrews Show. Thanks for tuning in. Connect with us. Goodbye, and God bless.